So guys, hello, and this is the second part about our volunteer trip to Agafia Lykova. In the first part I showed our way we have come from Moscow to get to these places, and in this part I will tell you about how she met us, about the help in the form of work, and try to briefly describe her living conditions. According to comments to the previous series, I realized that many believe that Agafia is not really waiting for us and will not happy we are here. And to dispel the statements, I will say for a start that it was the sixth trip to her from our university. Unfortunately, it was my first trip and I didn't know about such opportunities. For Agafia, our arrival is a joyful event. She meets everyone with a smile on her face. From Tashtagol with us by helicopter sent the necessary things, such as candles, some food. But the greatest value for her was church books. She sent a letter to our university, which was a request that we need to borrow this huge book. After handing her this book, she studied it for an hour and a half, and even read us her excerpts. Also, together with us, sent feed to her goats. Now let's move directly to our work, which we performed. First of all, she asked us to get all her potatoes from the cellar and take away bad potatoes. Since there are many of us, we managed this work in almost an hour. She herself would have spent at least a full day working on it. Agafia's work was for every taste and color. The girls doing hay, namely they cut grass, hung it out to dry on a makeshift rack under the dry dress. After the hay is ready, they fold it. The male part of the group was first sent to replenish the firewood. Agafia burns quite a lot of wood during the winter. In the summer, for the furnace, she used 3 large logs. In the winter, they spent about 8–10. If we translate to a more understandable measure, in winter Agafia burns 4 stumps per day on average. Our task was to give her 5 good stocks of firewood. Since we were enough people, we managed with this work for a couple of days without much fatigue. Work on waiting lists while 2 people are chopping the firewood, others collect ready firewoods. With the weather, we are obviously lucky in the early days. There was not a strong sun and working was quite fresh. Agafia at the same time was doing her work and periodically manages and speaks how should be better. Agafia gets fish from the nets. In Yerinat she has a fishing net which go grayling, a pretty good size for the local rivers. Grams of 300–400 grayling can be caught. During lunch and afternoon rest, Agafia often comes to us and to communicate with us, and shares their stories of life. She eats separately from us. She is not supposed to eat our food. Usually she eats alone, twice a day. A couple of times she treated us to her homemade bread, which is baked in the Russian oven. Instead of yes, she uses her leaven. This leaven she has constantly, it only takes the necessary amount of bread and make a new leaven. The bread is baked really delicious and hearty. If you compare with the usual urban bread, its bread is more dense and with a crispy crust, but inside it is much softer and more pleasant to taste. Let me show you how Agafia lives now. In summer, Agafia lives in a small shed, which is located in the garden. At first I can't say that there can be sleep. Everywhere scattered bags and rags. And in this shed and sleep Agafia until the outdoors become too cold, and only then she will sleep in the house. In her house unfortunately couldn't go without her permission. To go there not worth it, but asked for it not very desirable. But was able to see what inside through the window. In the window you can see only the old loom and a large number of books. More of the darkness and dust couldn't be seen. Next to her house is another, at the entrance of which hang two handwritten papers. Those who are interested in what is written on them, you can press pause and try to read. This house looks more solid inside. Everything is still cleaned up last year and inside is quite clean. In this house slept a group of men who didn't want to sleep in tents. If necessary, we could make a stove here and dry clothes. In this second part of a series of films about Agafia Lykova came to an end. Write your questions in the comments, and I would be grateful for your likes and subscriptions. Goodbye!